You boys know what's about to happen to you. You leave now.
Some consider these traits to be toxic, such as undesirable in the men of today. We consider these traits such as these not only to be desirable, but to be appreciated and celebrated. Welcome to the Toxic Male Appreciation Show, hosted by and La Reina Creole. Welcome to the safe space for the toxic male.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Reina Creole, and with me is her of positive fandom. And this, of course, is the Toxic Male Appreciation Show, where we definitely appreciate those traditional masculine traits that some weirdos in Hollywood have deemed toxic. So we're reclaiming that title to appreciate you men out there. And how are you doing, my fellow toxic male appreciation person?
I'm doing great. Always wonderful to be here to talk about toxic male appreciation, especially with this artist that we are going to be talking about today, Lorena. I can't wait to start talking about him.
Absolutely. This is an actor who I want to say an actor that we've kind of like grown up seeing in a way. So it's so cool that this person had such an amazing career, and especially as one of the most anticipated movies, I would dare say, this year is John Wick Chapter 4, and the actor we are talking about is obviously Keanu Reeves.
I just love him so much. And you're right, we have grown up with him more or less. He really is a modern movie star who has an incredible body of work, and is, kind of such a fantastic martial artist now through his life. He
Mhm.
performs the craft so well. He's known for his kindness. This man is incredible, Lorena. And it's so satisfying to see him play a role like John Wick.
Absolutely. I mean, for those of you who haven't seen it, and we've recently began viewing it with the watch parties that are on my channel for John Wick 1 and 2. John Wick basically started off as some low-level gangsters basically killed his dog and stole his car. That is literally it in a nutshell. What happens downstream from that? It is absolutely unforgettable. It's a role that I have not seen Keanu Reeves really in before. You knew he could play it, as evidenced by The Matrix, but to see John Wick, man, I mean, it's just amazing. It's absolutely amazing when he does in that.
I mean, I'm not going to go ahead. I'm going to follow Michelle Yeoh's comments about talking about people's primes. But what I can say is that it does feel like he might be in his prime, and it could be a long time that he stays there. I'm not going to insult him by saying he's out of it. I'm never going to say that. But
Mm-mm.
certainly, Lorena, you have to admit, I mean, I feel so much confidence in him as an actor right now. And in the John Wick role, he's made it his own. He owns this. And the level of confidence he has playing it, it's just so much fun to watch him take care of business.
Absolutely, absolutely. My favorite lines, "You working?" "Yeah." And just the way he just delivers it, there's obviously more to it than that, but, the man's got a extremely thick Hollywood resume. Let's see. Let's take a look here. Keanu Reeves, of course, that's who he is.
Mhm.
And of course, they're running stuff about John Wick Chapter 4.
Of
Oh my
course.
God, I cannot flip and wait. I already bought my tickets. Only bought my tickets for this. But anyway, Keanu Charles Reeves, whose first name means cool breeze over the mountains in Hawaiian, was born on September 2nd, 1964 in Beirut, Lebanon. That is very interesting.
Yeah, he's spent a lot of his early life pretty much going into many places around the world. And I think he certainly did get an early start in entertainment, but he's well traveled even at a young age. And fortunately, growing up pretty much around this, pretty much actors and that entire scene of performers from soup to nuts, Lorena. He pretty much grew up with some of the most well-known actors in the industry, and certainly I have to say he really is a very unique individual. In fact, I don't think there's anybody else out there like him. Just even looking at his, let's say his modest or beginnings as a child and then going on into the entertainment industry, it seems like his approach to being a performance artist and an actor is much more grounded in a sense.
Hmm.
Whole thing is a journey for him. It's not just a job. This is a journey, and you can kind of tell by a lot of the scripts that he's taken, which he takes chances on, and also the roles that he looks forward to and why, and does very specific things. He lives his best day is today. So every time a new day comes out, that's his best day. And I think as we go through his history, we're going to see that in his bio.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Turns out his mother is originally from England. His father was born in Hawaii, of British, Portuguese, Native Hawaiian, and Chinese ancestries. Very interesting background that he has right there. And let's see, because of course, we love looking at what he has done. And I'm trying to pull up the first thing that I ever saw him in. And I may be scroll up. Nope, maybe not. Okay. Yep. The
Yeah,
first thing that I saw him in was Bill and Ted's
yeah.
Excellent Adventure. Well,
It's
not the TV series, but daggone it.
it's
Okay,
an
wait.
absolute classic, Lorena. Certainly, the chill out high school film of the 80s. What it
Yes.
meant to be a high school student back then, and just kind of, not worry about anything else other than, cleaning your room, making sure you put the garbage out, and doing your assignments for school. And at that time, and I'm sure you've heard and remember, you were expected to finish high school. Like it was a given. You finished high
Yes.
school. Most kids were not concerned about ever finishing high school. The concern always was, well, what grade would you get? Like, well, did I get an A or a B? There was never really as much of a question as to whether students were going to finish high school in the 80s. You were expected to finish it. There was, for a good portion of American students, there was no reason why you shouldn't finish it. So, I think that carefree attitude that they had about it is quite apparent. But then they threw in the idea of trying to make history interesting. And, whoever did this thought, gee, I wonder what it would be like if you could go back in time or had the ability to travel back and forth. And of course, these two guys are musicians, you know, perhaps there was a push or a focus towards resisting history lessons. I don't know. One thing I can say is that they made it cool to think about what happened in the past and what your future could be. They made you excited about your future after high school. So for many people, high school is like the best point in their lives. And now they're telling you, hey, it can get even better. What a positive, fun-filled, goofy film. Nothing is necessarily supposed to be taken seriously in this. Just have a fun adventure while you can before graduation, before you get that diploma.
You said it so well. This, was one of those films that you could just chill out, watch, and it was fun. Like you were saying, it was fun to watch. Nothing super serious. But it did, and I noticed that this was something actually that did pop off in the 80s, is that making history interesting. Like, okay, why should I worry about history? And he goes back and gets like these musicians that we know about, but we kind of sees like these dull people in history, but bringing them to life with all their quirks and how they learn stuff from them. It really was. It was just a fun, carefree 80s style movie. And to this day, every time I see a Circle K, I'm like, something's afoot at the Circle
And
K.
there certainly was a sense of positivism in the 80s that we kind of lost in the 90s. Things kind of fell off. They got a little dour, I think, and it's okay. Every decade has its tone, but it did feel like the world was the sky's the limit. If you were hungry, you'd go and get some microwave popcorn. This was the extent of your troubles.
Hmm.
They were both lived in San Dimas, which seemed like paradise. This California neighborhood that just seemed like where you could just walk around barefoot. And then, of course, Lorraine, you go to a Circle K and pick up a cherry slushy, which is what I would get. But I think that those days, going getting maybe comic books or toys or
Hmm.
whatever it is fun you could get. Those magazines where you could use the lemon pencil and it would have hidden messages and things.
Yeah, they didn't message in it. Yeah, I remember that.
All that good stuff. If you wanted the blow pops, you could go get that. Like just this kind of fun, carefree thoughts of youth. And I don't really think they grew up at the end of this film of let's say of Excellent Adventure, the first one, because I think there was a second one, but they
There
weren't
was.
supposed to. This was just you guys did well. Now enjoy that one last summer before you have to go get a job, right? That would be
Hmm.
your one free last summer. Or if you're really on top of the game, you did an internship that summer, which you had already planned on doing before graduation. That was already in place.
Right.
But it certainly was a very special time. Makes me think of sneaking into movie theaters. Makes me think about going to the mall. Just all that fun stuff that I really do miss. Boy, I miss it. I just want to go back just one of these days and go back.
I I hear you. I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm looking at these I'm looking at these pictures
Yes.
of the both of them." Yeah. So you had Keanu as Ted Theodore Logan. So he was Ted. Alex Winter was Bill, and of course, who can forget George Carlin as Rufus?
Absolutely. He did add quite a bit of brevity to the story, which was supposed to be treated light. And then, of course, the decision about whether one of them was going to go to a military academy or not. And we know that was not appropriate for either of these young men.
No, that was not gonna work. They can straighten me out.
Yeah, that would have killed that poor child. He would have had so many demerits. He would have never graduated. I think that, they had to find this and they wanted to be musicians. And to be honest with you, I think in the 80s was maybe an era where being a musician was actually discouraged more than any other era. Finance was what was people were saying to go into finance, go into Wall Street. Um,
Hmm.
so doing something artistic was maybe not as encouraged as I think after the 80s, where performance art might have been pushed a little bit more. But I can't ever
Hmm.
forget how it actually, if you told your parents you wanted to be an artist or a musician, your many parents would have been very disappointed in you.
Oh yeah,
In the
they're like,
80s.
how you gonna make a living? You're a
Yeah.
starving artist, Uh, I think you get a lot of pushback that way. But be a Wall Street banker or you know, be an engineer because this was about the time Revenge of the Nerds is coming out, and nerd geek culture is actually starting to get popularized. So they were like, okay, that's okay. But it's amazing how even to this day, what is this movie like? 40 years old, 30 years old,
Oh
I
my
think,
God,
30
yeah.
years old, and it's still popular.
Yes,
It's
incredibly.
still popular. So popular they did the third movie, Bill and Ted Face the Music, which was actually which is pretty good, which is basically Bill and Ted have their own kids, they're two girls, and it's really it's funny, it's fun, and it's very family heartwarming. And you get to see Keanu Reeves, like, Ted grown up, Ted's a dad, Ted's got marital problems. It's, and his daughter is just trying to help him, and she's just like, he's her hero. The daughters to their both of their fathers, Bill and Ted, they're like, to them, they're the biggest, heroes in the world. And Keanu just kills it as usual. Honestly, I think he really did not have to act in this
No.
very much. He could just be himself. And I think that's the main reason people so much fell in love with this film and with this character.
Well, that it was a very interesting era where there were a lot of young men who had this personality. They were optimists, very happy-go-lucky. Like, don't worry, it's going to work out, and just that level of joy that they had for living. That desire to find happiness and kind of find enjoyment in things, really, I think, set such a positive tone that you can't fault it for anything, because that's exactly the type of child you would want to have, a child that's happy,
Mhm.
no matter what. Even though, something else that's perhaps not necessarily expressed in the movie is that they did have difficulty doing these history assignments. It doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it in
Mhm.
the film because they can travel, but this was something that might have stopped them from graduating, and they needed to find a solution. And something said, hey, we got to make sure these guys actually do graduate. uh,
Mhm.
and I thought that was important, that they needed help, and they
Yeah.
got it. And it was not unusual to go to a tutor, like, especially then. It's like, oh, you need tutoring, okay, you just go to the department after school, say you need
Mhm.
help with this, or ask another student. But yeah, they needed help with these history assignments. And, I think that in order to accomplish what they needed a presentation, which was quite dynamic. Not everybody has to do that, Lorena. Not everybody has to have this incredible assignment,
Right.
to graduate, but they obviously needed it, and they needed help, and they got help. So that was something else that I thought was great. Even with the help, they knew what they were talking about. I'm sure the teachers were like, yeah, this is actually pretty cool. They got actors in
Mhm.
here, and they didn't know what was actually happening. But I think it was a very creative thought. I was like, yeah, that'd have been great to do in high school. Of course, I graduated by then, but I still thought it was pretty cool. That would have been great to have as a presentation in school.
Mhm.
Wow, could you imagine this? That was incredibly impressive to show up to school with something like that. So,
Mhm.
they blew it out of the park. It was a fun thing, and they learned, and it was a success. So that was something else about it that was very interesting.
Yeah, like the tagline says up here, history is about to be rewritten by two guys who can't spell.
Yes. And that's okay. Something, there's different types of learners as well. We know this.
Yes.
For those of
Yes.
us who teach, we know that everybody learns in a different way. You have visual learners, you have auditory learners. You have people like me where I have to read it. I have to see it in print.
Mhm.
If I don't see it in print, it's like, and someone tells me, it's like I didn't even hear it. I must see it written down. And having all of these different ways that they showed everybody. Like, for example, there's a scene in the movie where Napoleon is showing Waterloo, the like battle.
Yeah.
He has it
Mhm.
like a miniature. He has a diorama there, and there are some people who need to see that diorama. They must see it in the flesh.
Mhm.
And he's showing everybody, and I'm like, there's someone out there who's watching this and is saying, oh, that's what happened. Because they needed to see the visual. They needed to see the visual
Exactly.
on the field. And someone's like,
Mhm.
hey, there's not enough support on the right. And, his military campaigns were never simple. But certainly, I think it demonstrated different ways that you could see. For example, the part where he was translating for Socrates, Socrates, where he was,
Uh-huh.
and I
Yeah, I remember that now.
I like that thought because it's like, yeah, he might speak a different language and he
Mhm.
has, he's a great thinker. So what would he think about our modern time? And, you often get questions like that. What would this great thinker think of the world
Right.
today? This is a different way of showing a common question that's asked in every high school classroom. Certainly a lot of fun. Whoever thought of this had such a huge imagination. And you're right, Lorena, it's the personalities of Keanu and the other actor. This is them 100%.
Mhm. Keanu and Alex Winter. Of course, there's Alex Winter to the left, Latter Day, and of course Keanu there to the right. So yes, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, one of the quintessential 80s movies, definitely something to check out. And Keanu is absolutely fabulous in it. I did not see Parenthood.
I've seen him in it, and he was good in it. He pretty much plays the same character he played in Bill and Ted, except in that character, it's dealing more with family issues, where he ends up getting married. He's like probably like 18 years old. He ends up getting married, and his mother has to help him and his new bride work through what it's like to be married. They probably never even
Oh,
dated. Look at him. Look at this sweetheart.
wow,
Look
he's
at him.
young.
Look at him. I mean, come on. He didn't change very much from it, but now he's taken that next step in the movie. And there's a famous scene where he actually is a race car driver and he gets hurt. And his wife, played by Martha Plimpton, was like, I can't handle this. This is way too intense. And so the mother says, oh, hell no. You get right back in there. You are his wife. You get in there and you stand by him. And I'm like, yeah. Like, I absolutely love that she did that, but they don't know. They needed someone to tell them what to do. They're only teenagers, practically maybe 18 or 19 years old. And I
Mhm.
thought that, you saw things like that again and again in Parenthood. Steve Martin was in the film, but he plays a role where oftentimes he has to kind of be a stand-in father in this film. It really was, I don't know if it was based on a true story, but it sure did feel like one.
Wow, arcade games
Remember arcades?
that took your quarters. Is that Ninja Turtle? No, I think I said maybe that might be Ninja Turtles. I don't
Oh,
know.
it was such a great time. It was such a great time.
Man, that's such
Um,
a cool. I haven't seen Parenthood in ages.
yeah, yeah. Well, look, he's playing Todd versus Ted. He's pretty much the same guy, same character, just a somewhat more mature version of the character. And Parenthood, those types of films at the time were kind of popular. I mean, I don't know whether people even wanted to think about relationships in that regard at that time.
Mhm.
So maybe this might have been considered a little outside of the box, but it certainly was a fun film to watch. I liked it. And I think he was good in it. But once again, he was Ted. You'd recognize him right away because
Mhm.
you heard him speak. He sounds just like Ted from Bill and Ted.
Wow.
But it works. It works because he's supposed to be this very young, inexperienced kid who's
Mhm.
a newlywed. Of course I
Wow.
think they got married, without permission and all that sort of stuff. But
Uh-huh.
you know how it was back then.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, guess what? We're married now. What? You're too young to be married. But I think I did see this movie like ages ago. I can't remember, but I know I enjoyed watching it because, of course, you had Steve Martin in it, playing a very positive role as a father, and I believe even surrogate father, like you said, to some others. So it kind of had like that TV dad feel to it. So it's very cool seeing him and of course seeing Keanu in the movie too, because he basically brought like the people our age into watching this film. So very cool film, very cool film. The other one,
Oh
we've
yeah.
got several, so we're gonna pick and choose.
Mm.
This is one of those movies where I would say was a tur- I don't know if I want to call it a turning point, but let's call it an evolution
Yeah.
in the type of roles that he got. Because now he's gone from, the teenage heartthrob roles to something a bit more serious. And of course, that movie is, again, another classic, Point Break.
Yeah, this is where Keanu got sexy. So,
Yes.
it's a very cool kind of, although it wasn't made in the 80s, it has an 80s
Oh,
feel to
shoot,
it.
by one. Sorry, 90s.
But you know what I mean? Like it has
Mhm.
an 80s feel to it. It's got a very Tequila Sunrise kind of feel to it. As far as I'm concerned, and of course, it's got Patrick Swayze in there, who, a 21 Jump Street vibe, maybe even to it.
Very.
Keanu's so young here, still playing an agent undercover, and having to infiltrate, these guys who are criminals, who are robbing banks and things. But it's set in the backdrop of this cool group of people who go surfing every day, and stay in some kind of shack or hut somewhere counting the dollars they've stolen by night. Like it's very kind of like, I'm very zen, but I need to get some cash now.
Yeah,
um
these boards aren't going to pay for themselves.
that's right. That's right. And I think Patrick Swayze kind of plays this very ambivalent figure, who has a huge influence on the Keanu Reeves character. So
Hmm.
Keanu Reeves is feeling conflicted about, reporting them when they're still clearly getting away with all of this stuff. What do you do in it? And
The
it's
mask, I still remember the mask from this with Reagan, Carter. Who was that? LBJ?
um I don't know.
I
I
don't know.
see
I don't know. I just
Nixon, I see Carter, I
yeah.
see Reagan, and that is it? I don't know. I'm sorry.
No, I don't know. Reagan is the one I definitely Reagan and Carter. Those are the two that I definitely know off the bat.
Yeah, it's Nixon is on the left.
Oh,
And I
okay.
don't know who's on the right. That might be Ford, or who did you say it was on the
I
right?
said I first I said I got LBJ and
It might
Nixon
be.
mixed
It
up
might be
because
Johnson.
Nixon
Yeah,
wasn't on
it could be
there.
him. I don't know, but I know the other three are definitely Reagan, Carter, and Nixon.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should know this, right?
Yeah. It's like you should know your president. Again,
And
that 20, I freaking love that.
yeah, he looks good. He's young. He's tight. Sorry, guys. He's young and tight here. Certainly looking very different than he did in Parenthood and Bill and Ted.
Hmm.
He's looking hot, and I think I absolutely love this look for Keanu Reeves. Certainly shows his potential sex appeal. Of course, he's up against Patrick Swayze, who dominates the testosterone thing, but. Um,
Hmm.
it really was great to see him in a film, I guess, or in roles that would be precursors to what he would be like later on, becoming this incredible martial artist and, being John Wick. Certainly, this wouldn't be the last time he'd hold a gun in his hand.
Nice trigger discipline, also. I'm just saying. I happen to notice that. But
Mhm.
yeah, Point Break is definitely up there with one of those classic films that Keanu has been in that you definitely, if you're a Keanu Reeves fan, you've seen Point Break.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
was like, ooh, fit nicely.
Between Patrick Swayze and him, and he wants to be like Patrick Swayze in the film, which is interesting. The character
Hmm.
emulates this guy who he's got to take down. It's an ultimate betrayal in the film, and he has to do it. Lori Petty, I think, plays his girlfriend, or one of the guy's girlfriends in this. But
This scene.
yeah, he's having the time of his life, jumping out of planes, you
Yes.
going all these different cool exotic places, and he's in the back of his mind, he's thinking, do I have to write a voucher for this? Like, you know what I mean?
I
You know
get
it.
you. I get
Do I
you.
have to
Yeah,
vouch
this
for this?
this movie, Point Break, I'm telling you, this is if you're looking for a Keanu Reeves movie to like stream, this is one of them.
Mhm.
Point Break. This was too much fun, especially if you're an action flick, aficionado, and especially if, like, say, the Bill and Ted stuff doesn't really grab me. Parenthood doesn't really grab me. Point Break is freaking awesome.
My
Absolutely
Own
awesome.
Private Idaho was a very controversial film he was in. He was still really, really young. It had to do
No,
with
really?
people who lived rough on the road and had sex with other men having sex with other men. And it was a big deal. It was very controversial. A
Mhm,
lot of rumors were started because he was in a film like this. It was not a lighthearted natured story where
mhm.
River Phoenix played this young kid who unfortunately suffered seizures,
Really?
and both he and Keanu were living rough and, kind of prostituting themselves is another way to say it.
Mhm,
They were prostituting themselves, and traveling across the country, kind of rebelling against what society was telling them to do. Um,
mhm,
uh, I think that the film, with its strong, there it is a song strong about a song. Oh dear, it is a movie about homosexuality strongly, but the boys are constantly being taken advantage of. At least that's how I look at it, because
mm,
it's different if you want to sleep with somebody and you sleep with them and you enjoy it. But once you get money involved, and that's like you have to money exchanges hands. I'm like, they're kind of young, and I don't know
mhm.
whether that's really right for them. That you can see they're like teenagers if you look at
Yeah.
the pictures of them. Of course, as actors, they're older. But my point being that it's different if you're an adult and you're over 21 and you know what you're doing. This was a little bit more like, well, I'm living hand to mouth and I'm willing to suck a dick if I have to. But honestly, they are kind of being taken advantage of. At least that's how I see the film. And
Mhm,
I'm sure there were kids who were doing this at that time. So yeah, it certainly had some very interesting themes to it. So it was controversial. And this is another reason why I think a lot of actors love Keanu Reeves, because he always picks outside of the box roles. He would have never taken The Matrix if he was kind of like a more mainline actor who didn't want to take chances. They became good friends, as you already know, Lorena, River Phoenix,
mhm.
Keanu. And,
Yeah.
when River passed away, it really heavily affected Keanu.
And it made sense because this, like, core group, I wanna say they called them, like, the Brat Pack, but of course, it's like you had Keanu, you had River Phoenix, you had Johnny Depp, all of those guys pretty much, rolled together. So when, you know, River unfortunately passed away because he OD'd, of course, in front of, the Viper Room, that was like unheard of with how that happened. And yeah, it affected Keanu and a lot of them in that small, insular circle. And even those of us who have been watching these movies, like, what do you mean? River's gone. And it was, splashed all over the news, all over the tabloids. And it was just so sad. But you know what? This movie I had not heard of before. So, I had heard of it, but I had not watched it. So,
Yeah, I've watched it several times. As I said, I think it was an independent film, but it was kind of a catch if you're an artist and you want a statement
yeah, looks
role.
like
This
it.
is it. What does it say? Two best friends living in the streets of Portland
Mhm,
as hustlers embark on a journey of self-discovery and find their relationship stumbling along the way. They are hustlers, but they're also prostitutes. I just have to be very clear when we say, you don't have to prostitute yourself to be a hustler, but just to be clear that they were, they did do prostitution, male
mhm,
prostitution to male and female prostitution in this. So they were really young teenage kids, or at least they seemed young to me,
mhm.
doing that. And I think that added to the controversial element of the story. So
Which is interesting because, not to stay on this too long, but it's very interesting because during that time, there was a lot of emphasis in media coverage on teenage runaways and why you would have these charities like Covenant House, which I remember near where I lived, where it was a safe place for teenage runaways to go, because if not, you found up a lot of them wound up in prostitution, whether male or whether female. And it was something that was definitely going on, and people kind of wanted to turn a blind eye to. So in a way, I kind of understand why they did this, especially with it being an independent film, because they were shining this light on this is unfortunately what happens sometimes to
yeah,
teenagers.
Absolutely, Lorena. It certainly was a different time where there was a lot of kids getting kicked out of homes and things like that in the U.S. So you
Mhm.
make a good, very, very good point with this. And to focus on this, it was kind of something people didn't want to talk about, or it's kind of like the AIDS crisis where no one wanted to talk about
Right. No one wanted to talk
or the
about
crack
it,
epidemic, or like they just wanted to kind of forget those things existed, but you couldn't forget, um,
Mhm.
that. So.
Wow. So that's yet another one that I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to that I'm gonna have to watch. There's so many of them, so I'm kind of trying to pick
It is
and
it is a
choose.
much more sexualized film, so I should mention that if to the viewers, if you're not comfortable watching a film that talks about sex and sexuality, that's not the film for you.
Exactly. I had to pick this one. I love Bram Stoker's
Mhm,
Dracula.
mhm.
That is one of my favorite books. I read Bram Stoker's Dracula. I love Dracula movies. This one came out. I'm like, Keanu Reeves is in it, and he plays just this innocent, he's just trying to do his job. Okay, he's just trying to do his job. He didn't mean to wind up in the middle of a quasi orgy of undead chicks. I mean, it was not his intention, but this is one of my all-time favorite Dracula movies. Gary Oldman
Yes.
as Dracula it rivals Bela Lugosi's in a way, brought up from modern takes. But Keanu's role as just the I don't have a clue to yeah, I'm gonna stab some some vampires. This was such a fun watch. Have you seen this film?
I have seen this film, Lorena, and and I think just like you, and correct me if I'm wrong. When the film came out, we all saw it in theater, but it also made syndication. So we've seen this movie hundreds of times in the television. Because they used to show movies over and over again. You could watch it.
Hmm.
Certainly, it was absolutely intriguing. It did have sexual nature to it. Keanu was just such a clean cut young man in this, being taken advantage of. Like, he kept his cool. I think I would have gone crazy with these chicks constantly coming to him every night.
I
And then,
know.
he was sleeping, and then, his hair turning white. I'm like, why is his hair white? And it's because he didn't feed, I guess, or something, like, or whatever the reason is. I just
Hmm.
thought it was an incredible character to put in there, because it was a precursor to let us know what, the Count was actually up to and what was going on, and to kind of demystify what was going on underneath his own roof. So, with his knowledge, he also treated it as, well, what do you do in what is it, 1800? What do you do in 1800 when you're confronted with a situation like this? And he was incredibly level-headed. He was quite a different contrast compared to the other guys who were clearly vampire hunters. The Anthony Hopkins character,
Yes.
the other guys.
Van Hel
Very,
as a Van Helsing.
yeah, he's quite a different approach to that, because most people are going to be like the Keanu Reeves character and not like Van Helsing at that time period. It's just not something that they would behave like, except for maybe the American character, the guy who was the American. But
Yeah,
he would just pull out a big old gun and shoot like
shoot
crazy.
it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
make sure it's dead. But to be honest with you, I thought that it was refreshing what they did with this film. And the top hat, I love. He was great in this. It was hard to stand out in a movie like this where there are so many other fantastic actors, and he managed to do it.
Yes, he had to match his craft up along with the likes of Sir Anthony Hopkins. Well, he was Anthony Hopkins, then now he's Sir Anthony Hopkins. Sir Anthony Hopkins, Gary Oldman. Of course, we know Winona Ryder, but those two men, I want to say, are like the tent poles for this movie for just their thespian ability. I didn't see any weakness in Keanu when he would interact with Gary Oldman as Dracula, or he'd interact with Sir Anthony Hopkins as Van Helsing. it's just he played his role perfectly. Just the I don't believe it. I don't. I just want to do my job until it's like, okay, all right, fine. We'll go along with it. Especially when Van Helsing tells him, "Oh no, we're just gonna find her, cut off her head, stab her in the heart. No, we're stab her in the heart and then cut off her head." And he's just casually doing it at dinner. He's like, "How could you say something like that?" But it's the perfect response. Where if you weren't in that business, you're just how barbaric, and how can you just casually, say something like that. It's like he reacts the way that we would pretty much would if he heard that. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I freaking love him, and I love him in this movie. I love him in this movie.
Yeah, he was good. And
Ah,
he looks good in a suit. Like, he looks good in a suit, and, from day one,
yes.
um, to present day.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. See, that was when he was like, I don't know what's going on. What am I doing? And, of course, that's before he found out what was going on in Dracula's house. Of course, we just saw Renfield there. Let me see. So there's another one. He's like very his barrister outfit. Yes, I'm just here to settle Dracula's affairs.
That is correct. That is correct. I am simply here. Can you please sign at the dotted line? Thank you so
Yes, please,
I
please.
I'm sure you'll find the, agreements in the, contract, amicable.
Mhm. And then you have to have somebody like Renfield go and get it. Oh my god, fun movie. Love it. It's great. Great acting in it, especially by Keanu. Let's see. I'd heard about even Cowgirls Get the Blues, but I had not seen that
I
particular
haven't seen
movie.
I mean, the one that points out to me the most is Speed because of his thing.
Oh, heck yeah. This movie, first of all, the idea behind this movie um, has been replicated in movies ever since. You've got this bus of all things that cannot, it can't go below 50 miles per hour.
Right. Yeah, and, you have Sandra Bullock who, has lost her driver's license and is not
Mhm.
supposed to be behind a vehicle, but here she is driving it, and the only one who can save her is Keanu Reeves, who is badass in this damn movie. He's
Yeah.
oh my god, this guy is great. You better not let him go after this. It's get a little bit of a Die Hard feel, although it's not the same gravity of Die Hard, but it had a
Mhm.
feeling of it, like a little sense of it, where he has to find a solution to this threat, and he's the only one who can really do it, and he does. So it did kind of feel that way to me, and showed his potential again. That he's incredible.
I was just looking at another heavyweight he had to act against, and that is, Dennis Hopper, I believe,
Yeah.
who was in it. Oh, Jan de Bont. That's yeah. He direct The Fifth Element? I may
I
be getting them mixed up. For some reason, I think he directed the Fifth Element, but
Maybe, I don't know.
he maybe have. Yeah, Joe Morton was in it. He was also in one of the Terminator films. Sandra Bullock.
Mhm.
I did not know Alan Ruck was in here, aka Cameron. Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And yeah, Dennis Hopper is Howard Payne. Man, I mean, this quintessential action flick again, recreated, joked about because it was such an innovative concept. Almost like a movie in a bottle, like a bottle movie, so to speak. It's like it's not hijacking a plane. It's like this thing cannot go below a certain mile per hour, or it's just going to blow up. And you're literally on the edge of your seat throughout this whole entire film. And of course, Keanu is great in it as kind of like the wet behind the ears cop. And now he's stuck in a situation like this, which is way above his pay grade, but he's the only one.
And, I didn't know that buses could go 50 miles an hour.
I did it. I didn't either. I mean, I had a hankering, but it's just like above. Can it even go that fast?
Yeah.
Well, I've seen a couple school buses go that fast when there aren't any kids in it, but still, it's kind of like of all things, a bus. But that was the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
It's absolute simplicity of that particular film. I'm nosy because this is like driving my mind crazy.
Yeah,
So
let's find out.
he did Speed, Minority Report, Twister,
It was a huge hit.
Die Hard as cinematographer.
Oh, so then I'm not too far off in the Die Hard feel.
Yeah, so he was the cinematographer as Jan Devant.
Okay.
Director of
And this one,
photography for Hunt for Red October, and Black Rain was good.
he's worked on all those are all pretty much hits.
Basic
Flatliner.
Instinct, Lethal Weapon, Tales from the Crypt.
Mhm. Those are big deal films. He worked on some
Wow.
big projects.
Huge projects. I was trying to find him as director, and that's interesting. But yeah, apparently not Fifth Element. Okay, don't laugh at me. I thought it was Fifth Element. I knew it was something out of the box. But yeah, Die Hard feel. So I guess when he directed Speed, taking, through a cinematographer's lens, which kind of makes sense because those action shots in Speed were just insane. Let's see, Johnny Mnemonic I did see. It was kind of forgettable. Fun popcorn flick to watch, but it kind of, I didn't really think too much about it. Did you see Johnny Mnemonic?
I did see it. I think it was kind of maybe going to be a precursor to what the Cyberpunk series would be in the future, or at least what they might have been trying to go for,
Mhm.
if you will. But it was not one that I was a huge fan of. And he is known for the film, but it had limitations. Pretty much just at the time in the 90s, that was as advanced as you could go when it came to CGI and tech looking things and
Mhm.
virtual reality. This is it. That's all you had. So it wanted to be cyberpunk, but it couldn't be.
Okay, because I was just like, I saw it and I was like, yeah, okay, okay. It wasn't a big draw, and didn't surprise me because you have these movies, some do great, some do not so great. This is almost like a niche, so to speak, for some folks. I just passed it. I had a friend of mine who loved this movie, but I couldn't get into it. I was like, nah, okay, I'll pass.
I think that and the Lawnmower Man, might have been the same
Yeah,
field, for
I think
that. So
so. That was a weird freaking movie.
yeah.
It was very, very, very weird. So yeah, that was Johnny Mnemonic. And then there's a couple of other movies that I didn't really watch or pay that much attention to until two movies here.
Yes.
We're going to make a big jump in a little bit. Two movies. One, The Devil's Advocate. This was so freaking good.
Yes. This is a very popular.
Oh,
And he has chemistry with Al Pacino. I've heard them talk about how he took less money so that Al Pacino could definitely be in the film with him, and how that was incredibly important. And Al Pacino was just coming off, I think, or around The Scent of a Woman popularity, or maybe it was around
mm-hmm.
that time. He was making these sort of films where he was kind of the character that had a huge influence over another younger person. So Keanu was no different here in this role, and it really was something very interesting to see them play off of one another, and it was a great film and very, very popular. I enjoyed it a lot.
Extremely popular. And little twist here, Keanu's character is from Florida. It is filmed, or parts of it were filmed in Gainesville, Florida. So if you want to look at real Florida, you'll see it in The Devil's Advocate, even down to it's really just even down to the church that they had there. It's one of these old Southern backwater Florida churches, which I'm used to, seeing. I've gone to some of them when I was younger, but it's just very interesting because he goes from being this, not I want to say rural, but close to rural Florida lawyer to going to New York City. And it's just like, you're going to be, his mother basically saying, you're going to be up there among the Yankees. She's like, I do not want you. That's pretty much like hanging out with the devil, hanging out with Yankees. But
Carpetbaggers.
yes, carpetbaggers, you don't want to mess around with them. But yeah, this movie, The Devil's Advocate, oh my gosh, such a cool flick, such a well-written flick. And it's not surprising that he went from The Devil's Advocate to The Matrix.
Yeah, and The Matrix was a film that I remember one of my cousins from the UK was in town. And while he was here, he was like, we got to go see this film called The Matrix. And I remember saying, okay, what is it about? And he's like, I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm like, we're going to go in cold. He's like, yeah, he's supposed to be this incredible like sci-fi film. So I had no idea what I was in for. And I realized that it's, one of the best films ever made as far as I'm concerned. But I realized, that this film really had kind of taken me out of where I was in the movie theater to another place by like one or two scenes that I was watching. And I was like, this is incredible. And so I had no idea at the time how much effort and work was put in to make this film. And a lot of discussion about how the film was made and filmed came out after, sort of like after the fact. And I remember my dad, they would say the way they made the shot was, and my dad would say, oh, it was filmed this way. And I just kind of looked like, how do you know all these, how all these shots were filmed? Not realizing that he kind of had an interest in that filmmaking part as well. But also, Lorena, we hadn't really seen a film like this. In fact, I think it kind of ushered in modern science fiction, fantasy, in a way we haven't seen before. This was very different. Lawrence Fishburne being there, this idea of this reality isn't what you think it is. And it was such a fantasy. The effects looked great. I had no idea Keanu and the entire cast had trained for months and months and months and months and months to make this look incredible. That's why everything looked so
shots, beautiful. The action shots, the slow motion shots, and the ubiquitous bullet camera shot.
Yes.
That was made famous by The Matrix. But you're absolutely right. This changed the game when it came to science fiction movies. It wasn't just about the science. It was about the science with a different type of motive. Because, okay, in case you've been living under a rock and you haven't seen The Matrix, I'm actually not going to spoil this for you, but I would tell you this. Once you find out what The Matrix is powered by, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. It was just something else once you see behind the curtain of The Matrix, and that just kicked it up to another level. And I think that because of that, and take the red pill, take the blue pill, which one you want to take. Why this film is so popular. I mean, for me, I like the first The Matrix movie. The second one, not so much. Third one, I did not even go bother to see. But this first one, it is absolutely groundbreaking. Keanu is cast perfectly. And I want to say this, for me, is the movie that started to form how he would perform as John Wick.
Yeah, Lorena, you're right. He started to, of course, get trained in martial arts, not just in fighting, but also in weaponry, and also another form of martial arts. So whoever's watching this, I'm sorry, I don't have the exact type of martial arts, but the one where they give you, they put a harness on you. And it's the one that I watch that thing all the time, because I watch those period pieces that, or I guess were filmed in 1800 with Asian, martial artists with hair all the way down to their knees, and they're flying around, like there's somebody pulling the pulleys, but they're like, like they're flying through the air. And it's, I watch that stuff all the time, but we had never seen it applied like this. this was remarkable. I had no idea they practiced this stuff like hundreds and hundreds of times, Lorena, just to get it right. And however, the film came across and is still flawless. I don't see any errors in the film.
No.
The CGI parts where, the guns kind of get loaded around them, or, Carrie Ann Moss has to have some kind of a program put in her head to learn how to fly a helicopter. It all comes across believable for me, the scene. And I still, I remember watching it and seeing the one scene where Carrie Ann Moss is in the helicopter and, I guess it's falling down, it's on its side, and he takes a rope, he wraps it around his arm. And I remember going, what the, and he just pulls it. And I'm like, oh my God, that scene was where I knew that this was not an ordinary, we'd already seen incredible things, but that one scene really kind of like, I don't know, I realized, I said, this is very different. I was not expecting him to do that. I wasn't expecting him to grab a rope and pull up a helicopter. Like, who would think that was possible? But it's possible because he's in the Matrix. And I think that it made its point. You needed to see these very specific things in the film. And God bless the Wachowski sisters for just coming up with this fantasy of being able to play with reality and mind perception and, trying to figure out where he needs to be, what's important to him. There's a character, Lorena, in the film who says, I don't want to be outside of the Matrix. I want to go back in. I want to be able, I don't want to be poor. I want to be able to have steak every night. And I thought that was very interesting about what's important to each character and why. That was very interesting treatment. A lot of people would probably say the same.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The Matrix. Literally. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I want to say, and the clothing and the appearance and the rain and like this kind of, it felt very in the near distant future. It reminded me of Dark City. Those are some of the other things I want to say, but okay, go ahead.
Now I'm just going to say, if you go to a convention, 9 times out of 10, somebody's dressed as Neo or Morpheus or Trinity from the Matrix. That just seems to be a standard. You're going to see somebody who's dressed like that. That's just how popular this film was, especially with respect to science fiction.
And the guy who was in the Ip Man, the guy who played, I think it's Shuri, or not Shuri, Scurry or Shuri in Rogue One. He's a famous martial artist, is the one, I believe, who trained everybody in martial arts in the Matrix, because the Wachowski brothers or sisters had seen the ability, or at least his ability at the time. Like, there was so much that went into this, and it's those moves and stuff are now used, as you said, Lorena, in films like Marvel. In Marvel films, we're expecting to see that level of fighting, and it is remarkable how it's really pretty much changed the industry.
Absolutely. So there's another Keanu Reeves movie. One that I like. I am not a crier whatsoever. Your girl is a tough chick. But this movie right here,
yeah,
I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God, have you seen this one? The Lake House.
And this also shows his range, and I think he likes doing stories like this. We certainly, it's the basis of John Wick, isn't it? That he loved someone, this person who was so important in his life. And then someone tries to disrupt the love there, inspiring him to go back to the business. But the Lake House, he has so much chemistry with Sandra. 20 years later now, is it 20 years later? 10 years later, he's in the lake house with her, and the chemistry is still there. Like, you can feel it even when they're not even in the same shot. You can kind of feel it, and he's kind of like, where is this woman that I love? This, like, how am I going to find her? It's really a beautiful story, and I think so well done. And a lot of it is the two of them, and you almost want, it's a love story essentially, but I almost want them to make it something else like this again. where we can kind of fantasize about them, wondering where each other are and thinking about one another. It was just so beautifully done. We already know Keanu is a romantic. We know that. And he's the type of actor who has genuine emotions, has been described as being incredibly kind. And, and I think a man like him would be searching for someone to love, because love is important to him. So a lot of what we're seeing in the character is what he's brought to that role.
Exactly. Exactly. And the Sandra Bullock character, it's like I identify with her so much. She's very cynical. I believe was she a doctor
I think so.
in
Yeah, I
this?
can't
I think
remember.
she was a doctor in this. So she was very, very cynical, like this can't be happening. There's me a logical explanation for it. And the letters that she reads, she starts to get over, starts to push through that. Like, is this possible? This could possibly be happening, to the point where she can't deny it anymore. And she falls in love with this man, with like just the words that he says and the way that he understands her. I mean, they even get into couple fights, couple spats, but that happens, in a relationship. But it's interesting and a wonderful evolution to see, where she goes from being this cynical person about the world to believing that true love exists, and it's something that she wants to hold on to and does not, oh my gosh, does not want to lose. I'm not going to spoil it. Great date movie, especially for tough chicks who don't cry like me. Yeah, yeah, we gonna be balling. This movie, and I think Last of the Mohicans had me.
Well, it reminded me of another film that came out in 1980 that starred Christopher Reeve and, of course, Jane Seymour, called Somewhere in Time.
Yes. Oh my gosh, the ending to that. I was so sad. I think I saw that when I was a kid. I was sad for weeks. I
And
was freaking sad for weeks.
yeah, and this idea of being in love with someone, but the only thing preventing you from being with them is really just where are you in space and time, which is what it's
Mhm.
about. A very kind of scientific way of looking at things as well. Um, I think if you are a person who likes science and the idea of this sort of thing, it's very interesting to look at that. The other one that I would mention is a movie called Safety Not Included, Not Guaranteed, excuse me, Safety Not Guaranteed, where
Mhm.
this woman kind of has to take a leap of faith that the man that she's in love with, everything that he's fearing is real. And she has to take that leap of faith, or else
Mm.
she can't be with him. And I thought that that was another one. Safety Not Guaranteed, I think is what it was
Safety
called.
not guaranteed.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Get all kinds of recommendations from us at this one. Let's see. So we're kind of speeding up a little bit here. So let's see. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see. We're gonna hit the opposite. There we go. John Wick. Now,
Yeah.
we've done a watch party of
Yes.
this particular movie. Now you see its popularity, like
Yes.
75. This movie, I'd heard about it for the longest time,
Yeah.
didn't really get a chance to see it. I didn't see what, the hype was about. It just fell off my radar. But when people kept telling me, okay, you have to watch this, you have to watch this. So we had a watch party, and watchers were like, oh my God, this is quite possibly one of the most toxic masculine movies that I have ever seen. Ex hitman, and we all know how tough hitmen are. Okay, decides to risk it all because he wants to be with the woman that he's in love with, and he's willing to leave his hitman days behind, leave him behind, to the point where all of his guns, all of his gold is under, like, what, a foot of concrete or something like that.
Yes.
Literally, he was not going back to that, that life. He wanted to have that life with his wife. But unfortunately, his wife dies. I think she had cancer. He is like absolutely heartbroken. And while he's finally home at a quiet house after the funeral, he gets a delivery. And what is it? a little puppy sent by his wife. And he just, people say men do not have feelings. The way Keanu breaks down reading that letter and just all his feelings, and he, he has this, this new little puppy to love. Well, long story short, these stupid retarded gangsters find him, kidnap and no, not kidnap, kill the dog,
It was
beat him up,
tragic.
kill the dog, and steal his car.
It was absolutely disgusting. And it was hard to watch. And of course, the dog was a surprise and maybe the last thing that his wife had thought to give
Yes.
him. And so there was a lot of symbolism there. But it was also just the disrespect of coming into his home and treating him like an animal when he didn't deserve that from anyone.
No.
But there was the ignorance of the person who initiated this entire rumble, so to speak. And so he had to go
Hmm.
back and assume his role. I think one of the biggest accomplishments for Keanu Reeves in this is just what an expert fighter and martial artist he's become.
Oh yeah.
And he's not, he is in his 40s, I think, when he made this one, now in
Hmm.
his 50s, certainly just unbelievable in what he can do. And the confidence in his movements and ability to play these roles really shows in this. I don't think they could have picked a better person to play this. It's certainly exciting to see what he can do. And I kind of made a joke about, well, what's the death count, but it almost didn't matter because you needed to see some repercussions for each person he was fighting with. These were death blows. These weren't sort of like blows that were meant to startle anybody. He was fighting, he was aiming to kill, fighting for his life, so to speak. And so these shots were lethal blows, not sort of like, I just want to spar with you or anything like that. So it's very different, that type of fighting. And of course, you see more of that type of fighting in martial arts films where
Hmm.
the men are actually, and sometimes the women are fighting, to the death. This is a much more serious style fighting. And he pulls it off so well. Gosh, he looks good. And he wears that suit. You and I talked about this, how great it is to see a man in a suit. He certainly does wear it well and keeps us coming back.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, it's just like a man in a suit. That a man in a suit. That's lingerie for men right there. Is a suit, but it also harkens back to, I'll say back to, like, say, James Bond. He always had a fly suit on, perfectly tailored, to his body. And with Keanu, it's like that's just perfect. Seeing him in the suit, and also when you were talking about the martial arts, when I was watching this movie, I was thinking of the Ip Man movies.
Yes, he's the guy who did the martial arts in The Matrix, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did that for John Wick as well. The Ip Man also, as you know, he was in Rogue One
Hmm.
as that character. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, Lorena, if he did it for this as well. I would not be surprised.
Because it was just absolutely, oh my gosh, that was funny. To go to the doctor. Oh yeah, I mean, this film was absolutely stunning. Keanu's perfect range in this, and I was just absolutely blown away. I mean, even the poster art for this, it's just like no
It's
one else could play it.
incredibly toxic male. This might be one of the
Yes,
most toxic male things he's ever done. It certainly is badass. It's toxic male. He chose not to go necessarily. He wasn't like the other guy in the Matrix who wanted to stay in the Matrix. He's like, hell nah. We gotta do something here. In this particular role, it's like it's going down, and I'm prepared. And it's on. It's on.
completely. He's just like, look, I am not holding back at all. Coming after you fools. You killed my dog. You stole my car. And I'm not going to, granted, some of you have not seen it yet, but let's just say that the dog symbolizes, again, like Erm was saying, the last present one from his wife. But at the same time, it's animal cruelty.
It was horrible what they did to
It
that
was
puppy. I couldn't believe it.
horrible what they did to they
Come
left the
on.
puppy there for him to find, and he wakes up and he thinks that the puppy is still alive. When he realizes the puppy's dead,
Oh,
he just, I mean, he took the puppy's collar and put it next to the bracelet, his wife's bracelet, and that's when you knew it was just on.
mhm.
Because it's not like they went and, it's one thing they came and beat him up. It's like, yeah, we're gonna kick your ass. But the fact that they did that to his dog, the last present from his wife, it's like, forget that.
This
It's
innocent
more
little
than about that.
creature. It really, it's amazing how much of an effect that had on us. I mean, it really, was heartbreaking.
It really was, especially when, and I think, and really do have to chalk this up to Keanu Reeves' acting. When he gets that dog and he gets the letter from his wife, the card from his wife, and says, if you get this, that, that it means that I'm dead. And she's just like, you need something to love and take care of.
Aw.
And he just breaks down, and she named the dog Daisy, and he just loves this puppy to death. Just loves him to the point that when he loses him, and in John Wick 2, they're like, what's the dog's name? Because he got rescued this one dog. He's just like, doesn't have a name. And I'm like, oh, okay, because the puppy had a name.
Yes.
So he may not want to go back to that. But yeah, this movie was absolutely, absolutely flipping stunning. I loved it. Loved it, loved it, absolutely loved it. Let's see. So, because I know we're kind of running a little bit short on time, but this guy, he has so much stuff.
Yes.
See, there's y'all gonna laugh at me. Let's see. There is, okay, we said chapter 2. John Wick chapter 2. Just talked about that. I have not seen Destination Wedding. Have you?
No, I haven't seen that. I'm assuming it's got to be a comedy, right?
Oh, well, Winona Ryder's in it.
We should watch it.
Huh.
What's
We
the
watched
ranking
this.
on
I have not seen this.
it? Interesting.
The story of two miserable and unpleasant wedding guests, Lindsay and Frank, who develop a mutual affection despite themselves. This looks like your typical romantic comedy, and I'm there for it.
Yeah, I would love to see something like that. And I think that anything he makes always has some unusual spin to it.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that. I did also want to mention to you that one other role that he was in, which certainly I can't ignore, it's not a movie. It's in Cyberpunk, the video game,
I was gonna mention
where he plays Johnny Silverhand, and he did voice capture, motion capture for that. And Cyberpunk 2077 as the game, when it first came out, did have some issues, but now that it's been
Mm-hmm.
a year or two, it's been like a year or two since it came out, they've kind of fixed a lot of the bugs, and it works because of somebody as cool um, as Keanu Reeves, kind of pushing the franchise. Um, Certainly is very important to it. But I think he did, I think his Johnny Mnemonic was a precursor to Cyberpunk.
I would
Um,
agree. Yes.
and certainly who better than to play a role in this than a guy who is more cyberpunk than anyone I know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And with this particular game, it's interesting because there was an anime
Mhm.
for Cyberpunk Edge Runners, which came out, I believe, I think close to the latter end of last year. And when that came out, I saw it. I saw it. It was great. It was great. People went back. That literally renewed interest in the Cyberpunk 2077 game, because for some people with all the glitches and stuff, they're just like, forget it, I'll eventually go back to it. But with Cyberpunk Edge Runners anime coming out, animated by Studio Trigger, that was so good. Again, it reignited interest in the Cyberpunk 2077 game.
Absolutely.
So a lot of people were hype about this game, like you were saying, because of Keanu Reeves.
And now the last thing that I would mention would be his involvement with a comic book. And this was a big deal. It's called Berserker. It's a series that is created and written by Keanu Reeves and Matt Kent.
Mhm.
And it was put out on a Kickstarter campaign that raised more than $1.4 million. And it was one of the most successful comic books, selling over 615 copies, which, comic books don't sell 615,000
No,
copies anymore,
no,
Lorraine,
they do not.
except
No.
for maybe Eric July's campaign, which sold a hell of a lot of copies. He sold a ton of copies, but that was the last one I know where someone, went and sold a lot of comics. But what was also equally impressive about it was that because it was Kickstarter, Lorena, what they offered, I didn't have the money at the time, but you could be in it if you wanted. If you threw in $1,000, they could create a character of yourself. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I had the money for this, to be in a comic book with Keanu Reeves. Like that's like such a fantasy. But of course, the comic book did very well. I think it got an 8.5 out of 10. There were 3 versions. I think one came out and is going to be coming out this year, but the last one came out in September of 2022. And they're talking about developing a live action film from it based on the comics, with Reed's cast as the lead. So it's called Berserker. And Keanu keeps creating these characters that people want to see. They're toxic males. They are, badass. They're protectors. They, absolutely know how to use weapons. They fight. This is what people want to see, and he does it so well. And not only in video games and not only in film, but also in comic books. So, and animation, as you said, Lorena, here, he managed to cover all of those areas. And he's a musician too. We didn't talk about his musical career, but he is a musician. Keanu Reeves is
Yes, he is.
accomplished musician as well. So this man has mad skills.
Absolutely. And I think that's another reason why he's liked so much, because it's not just the acting with him. There's so many dimensions to him, and especially with pushing into video games, with Cyberpunk, pushing into comic books with Berserker. It's like, again, this is somebody that we've grown up with, and his craft and obviously business acumen, has just been evolving, and we're so, we're all there for it. There is one more movie that I do have to point out.
Always be my maybe.
I have to point this out because I have my issues with Toy Story, but one of the funniest things about this was when I heard Keanu Reeves is in it. Keanu Reeves is in Toy Story. You would not even know that it was him. So the character that the Evel Knievel.
Yes.
The back in the day, you see the pictures of it. You're like
for 20 or 30 cars at a time.
Yeah, and like the toy, it's like kind of revved it up and it went on a track, or you made it jump over stuff. You trust me, go watch YouTube and look for like old Evel Knievel toy.
That was one of the best. You wound it up, Lorena, and you could write it down your hallway.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole thing. You want to talk about toxic male? It's like, how many buses you want? I would have jumped this. My action figure can jump 20 Hot Wheel cars. No, I can't. Yes, I can. And I would watch my cousins do that. I'm just like, boys are so weird. But they love doing it. And this is what his character was. Literally a caricature of the Evel Knievel toy. Everything.
Yeah, and Evil Knievel was such an icon of the 70s of just being such a badass on his motorcycle, doing all these incredible stunts. And
Hmm.
there was that anticipation. It wasn't always 100% certain he could do it. So there was that fear and that excitement in what he put in these stunts. It's certainly a different era, and capturing that, it's a lot of fun to see that.
It was so much fun. But his character, oh my gosh. He's like, I don't know if I can do this. I couldn't jump, and I don't know. I failed my last owner, and it's really
Really?
cute.
I feel like I
It's
need to
really
watch
cute.
this.
Um, I tell people Toy Story 4, it wasn't really needed, honestly, but was not a bad watch. It was just kind of just like, I was kind of done with 4. It's like it's not bad. It's really not a bad film. It's just kind of like we didn't really need it to be to complete the whole it wasn't a movie that was really needed, but the execution was still good. Like my nieces and nephews they love all the Toy Story movies. There's kind of like jokes. I think Carl Weathers does the voice of Combat Carl, and there's like these toys that have been thrown away, and there's like so many different Combat Carls that are going on. So they're all toys in there. But yeah, Keanu, I think his performance as Duke Kaboom, of course, instead of Evil Knievel, was funny. He was a Canadian stunt toy.
Yeah, it's certainly something. I think he has so much potential in everything he does. He just is incredible. That, yeah, that's I can't. I'm gonna go ahead and look at the film and see the parts where he's in. And I'm so glad you mentioned that. I didn't know that he did that.
Yes, Toy Story 4, I want to say, is has some crazy celebrity talent, like Key and Peele or Ducky and Bunny.
Yeah,
Funny, absolutely funny. Love that. There's like a doll. It's kind of like either like creepy ventriloquist dolls, but there's this doll where she just wants to be loved by a child, but she doesn't have a voice box. So that's
oh,
why she's in this like store. But her two like bodyguards, they are so freaking creepy. they're just they're just creepy, but it's a fun film to watch. It's like it's okay, it's cool. I love Keanu in this. He had me in stitches. It kind of in a way harkened back to him as like Ted from Bill and
yes.
Ted Face the Music, but it was fun. It was fun. Hello, Vaughn
Hi.
Roma. Hope I said that right. Vaughn Roma says, hi, ladies. Hello, hello. Glad you're here with us. Yeah, so Toy Story 4 was fun to watch. And of course, oh, I didn't know he was Batman from the DC League of Super
No,
Pets. I
I
did not,
didn't know that
I
either.
didn't see that. It looked okay. I wasn't really too interested in that one. But again, I was waiting for this. I watched this like 3 times. Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Yes.
And it was literally like no time had passed looking at them because they both still look good. Keanu and Alex still look good.
They really do look the same. It's quite remarkable, actually, except Keanu has the beard. But
Yeah.
if that beard wasn't there, you could almost go. You have to do a double take and kind of look at that. So it is a lot of fun to go back and see them kind of revisit such a fun time in their lives. I'm sure as young actors.
Yeah. It's a fun movie, a very heartfelt movie where, it's like now they're fathers, and they have girls, and someone's taken over for Rufus, and it's a great movie. It's like they've hardly really aged at all. Same characters, little different because time goes on and their situations are different, but wonderful movie to watch. I enjoyed this movie so much more than I thought I would, especially as they went back in time and got Jimi Hendrix. Whoo! That was cool. That was very cool. So yeah, definitely check it out. Apparently, it's available on Freevee. Watch it. I enjoyed it. I really did. I really
I'm
did
gonna
enjoy
watch it. I haven't watched it yet, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, this was fun. This was a fun flick. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey was not, it was okay. Yeah, but of course I like the first one, Bill and Ted's, Excellent Adventure, and then Bill and Ted Face the Music. I like that. Like those. Let's see. So let's see what Keanu has coming up. Of course, we know John Wick 4. I can't wait. That comes out, I think, March 23rd. I'm seeing it that Thursday. I'm seeing it next Thursday evening. Got my ticket. I cannot
It's gonna be
wait.
fantastic.
Cannot wait to go. I am so hyped for it. There's some people who've seen it already. I know Alan Ing of Film Threat has seen it already, and he's just like, this is freaking amazing. So I cannot wait because just see John Wick Chapter 4 is coming out. Apparently, there's something called Ballerina, which is
I think it's with
related.
Anna de Armas, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
Yes, Anna de Armas. So that's going to be out in 2023.
Yes.
So I guess that's later this year.
It looks hot.
That does look hot. So it's a standalone John Wick story. I happen to I like Anna de Armas.
Yes.
I loved her in Blonde.
Yes, she was
Whatever
amazing.
you think about the movie, her performance was freaking amazing.
Yes, I agree.
In that film. So yeah, so that's coming out in again 2023. So there's Ballerinas, Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty. Apparently, this is coming.
That's fantastic. It's another video game, right?
Another video game, and not only does it have Keanu Reeves voicing it, but also our boy Idris. Actually, I saw the second Luther movie 2 days ago.
I haven't seen it yet. How is it?
It's so good. Oh my gosh. It is so good. I have to watch the first one, but Netflix dropped the second one and like, hey, you have to see this. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll check this out. I'll check it out. It's so good. So freaking good.
Yeah, he is
You
good.
have to
I
see
love
that.
the
You have
Luther
to see that.
character.
So Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. Yeah, I'm gonna get in on the first floor, bottom floor with that one. So it looks like it's in production. They're working on the code and everything. So I'm definitely keeping an eye out. Definitely keep an eye out for that. Berserker, which we were just talking about.
Yes. It's in is it pre-production or post-production?
It says pre-production.
Okay.
Right now. And oh wait, no. This is like the actual movie.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. They're doing a series, if I remember correctly, but maybe it is a movie.
This says based on a comic by Keanu Reeves. So Matt Kent and Keanu Reeves writing, and then Mattson Tomlin screenplay.
Yes.
So it looks like this is actually going to be the film, which makes sense because if you got the film to tie in, you put the comics out first, and then you have a film that's coming up. Wow.
I knew I should have bought that character in the book.
Oh, it's like this, like only if I could, man.
I should have done it.
Well, we will keep our eye on this one for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. Because I am excited. A comic follows an immortal warrior known as Berserker as he fights his way through the ages. Okay, so basically martial arts Ted from Bill and Ted. I'm in.
It's wonderful. I remember looking at the Kickstarter page when the comic book came out, and there's Keanu Reeves looking at you, and he goes, "Comics is great," and I'm like, "Yeah,"
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
yes,
Absolutely. And let's see, we've got John Wick Chapter 5. Well, spoiler.
yes,
Uh and
and of course,
Constantine too.
which everybody's been waiting for since I think, if I remember correctly, they had another person play Constantine. I don't know whether, Keanu's returning for the role now as Constantine or what the
Mhm.
story is, but he played the first Constantine and he was popular in that. But I think another film was made and then he ended up he wasn't in that one. So maybe this is a continuation of him as Constantine. He should have been in, as far as I'm concerned, the Sandman series as Constantine too. They should have pulled him for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they should have pulled him for that.
I don't think I saw Constantine, the first one.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's gonna have to go on my list. I'd heard a bunch about it, so this is cool. So yeah, so that's in production. So going to be flipping awesome. So folks, one last thing to end the show on because this is so true. This is so true. Keanu Reeves says he appreciates the goodwill of being called the internet's boyfriend. He totally freaking is.
Well, we can't help but ignore, all of his emotions that he so shares with us, and of course, remember that time period of the sad Keanu, on the bench, and he has been through a lot of shit. So,
Yeah,
he really has experienced a lot of stuff, but it doesn't stop him from being amazing and one of the best toxic males out there.
absolutely. Absolutely. 100% toxic. And he's proud of it. And it's interesting. You don't hear that toxic male label being slapped on him.
No, you don't.
Nah, he's a great actor, you know, great humanitarian for some things, that I read about. And again, this is one of these guys where we have grown up with together watching him, in movies and on TV. And it's interesting here the line says the actor told People during the New York City premiere of John Wick Chapter 4 that he hopes his fans enjoy what I do. How humble is that?
That is so sweet. Of course, we love what he does. He makes entertainment so much more interesting.
Oh, heck yeah. I have not, I mean, in the circles that we run in here on YouTube, I have heard mega excitement about 2 movies, Super Mario Brothers and John Wick 4.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, Lorena. We were talking about what people want to see. It's exactly this type of toxic male depiction that they want to see in movies like this, and it's in something like John Wick 4, and in a lot of other Keanu's roles
Mhm.
as well. So he certainly is an actor to be celebrated, and you know what? He's not showing any signs of slowing down.
No, and I
He's
love it.
Oh, it's wonderful. He's in his 50s now, so he's just not stopping, and I love it too.
I do. I do. I think he's gonna have that longevity, we'll say drama action stars like, say, Sean Connery, you know, something like that. But I do not see him stopping. I do not see him slowing down, and it's great. It's absolutely fabulous. So Keanu Reeves, folks, definitely check out the things that he's done. Definitely check out the recent things that he has coming out. Oh man, definitely check out John Wick 4. We will actually be having a watch party for John Wick 3. So you do not want to miss that on my channel. So with that said, do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Well, guys, you can always find me on Positive Fandom, my YouTube channel, but you can also find me on the Bear Network. You can obviously find me here on Reina Creole's channel, streaming quite frequently. Also, the 1/6 Scale Man Network. So please do check it out. Lorena, you and I have a watch party on Saturday on the Bear Network for the movie Smile.
Yes, I can't wait. I cannot wait.
It's going to be amazing. And honestly, I can't wait. So it's just such a great time. And thank you, everybody, for watching.
Right. Well, thank you, my dear. Of course, you can see Hurton's YouTube channel in the description box of this video. So please do click and subscribe to her. Of course, you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram and, of course, on YouTube with various live streams and videos, some with her as well, Positive Fandom. I do gaming, I do theme park streams, and of course, you can catch me along with her on the Bear Network for Ladies of the PGS on Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern. So, folks, as usual, thank you so much for hanging out with us. You toxic men out there, you stay toxic, stay amazing. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.